Hi, welcome to our channel of IGNOU audiobooks, Indira Gandhi National Open University, School of Gender and Development Studies, SOGDS, Diploma of Postgraduate Diploma Programs, Postgraduate Diploma in Women's Gender Studies, PGDWGSR, MWG, 103 Constructing Gender Through Arts and Media, Block-1 Gender and Literature, Unit-5 Queer Writers or Writings, 5.1 Introduction. After reading all the units, you may have understood that the units have been written to focus on the heteronormative discrimination of literary art and literature as a medium where women have been kept out from any kind of contributions. You also have a better understanding of the process of deconstruction. In this unit, we are going to look beyond the heteronormative patriarchal contributions and probe into the structural discrimination formulating through the agency of both publishing house and writers themselves. As when we talk about queer writings or about queer writers, the whole genre is a new area of exploring literary art. This genre is emerging trend, but India has to move much more ahead than other parts of the world. Writers like Christopher Isherwood, Oscar Wilde, Alan Hollinghurst, Jean Genet are already quite well known all across the world. But when it comes to this genre in the context of India, hardly readers have come across any name. It is important for all of us who love to read literature, must familiarize ourselves with such writings and the writers. 5.2 Learning Outcomes. On completing this unit, you will learn to explain the characteristics of queer writings, critically analyze the literature that focuses on queer people and its relationship with the queer authors, describe the themes that queer writers mainly focus upon, and discuss the publishing house and the market of such writings. 5.3 Understanding queer writers and writings. It is important for all of us to understand the reason of such a category, as you all are aware of the meaning after going through Block 3 unit of MWG 101. We will try to discuss the term queer with a capital and a small alphabet from a literary perspective. If someone uses the word with a small q, the meaning gets more prominence in terms of societal normative structure, where the difference and distinctness of the word focuses on non-normative, sexual orientation, and gender identity. Literature about coming out, demanding political rights, struggling for legal space and societal acceptance, fits into the all kinds of literary genres of queer writings by queer writers. But when the same word is pronounced with a capital Q, it refers to a particular gender identity or community where the capitalization matters, as not the whole community, but a particular group of LGBTQ people who keeps questioning one's sexual orientation, sexual identity, gender, or all three. It is a process of exploration by people who may be unsure, still exploring, or concerned about applying a social label to themselves for various reasons. Thus, queer writings in India by such writers are very limited, but on them by other writers are easily available. You must note that queer writings refer to literature that explores themes and experiences related to non-normative gender and sexual identities. These kind of writings can take many forms including novels, short stories, poetry, memoirs, biographies, autobiographies, plays, blogs, and it often seeks to challenge the traditional gender binary and heteronormative, patriarchal notions of literary writings. This kind of writings differs from other gendered literature, as it is mostly written by and for LGBTQ people. It foregrounds experiences and perspectives from the marginalized or peripheral sections than from the mainstream literature. It explores and validates the queer experiences and identities some way, as it tends to create spaces for the LGBTQ people to express themselves and find their voices within the community. Thus, it is very important for such writings to be valued as this literature provides a perspective on gender and sexuality that is often absent or misrepresented in conventional or mainstream literature. It also has the power to reshape the prevalent societal norms and values. 5.4 Key Elements of Queer Writings of India. We will be discussing the elements that make queer writings stand apart from the mainstream conventional literature of India. In the other units of this block, you must have learnt how the whole concept of gender and literature being encapsulated and defined through a feminist perspective. Constructing gender through literary art has been the forte of many literateurs and authors. They imagined their society and penned down their thoughts through several colors of portrayals required for everyone, and many did, tried to create space in the literary art through an exact depiction of characters that could bring out the nuances of gendered identity. Keeping this in mind, the queer writers did stand away from the cue to portray themselves through different elements in their writings. Some of them we are discussing here. 5.4.1 Representation. The LGBTQ community seeks a proper and correct representation in literature. For a long time, queer identities and experiences has often been marginalized and excluded from mainstream literature of India, which has led to a lack of representation and visibility. The conservative social norms and laws that had been criminalizing the community until 2018 verdict of the Honorable Supreme Court of India, the community could hardly get a space in the literary art of the cisgender heteronormative writers until the end of last century. However, a growing number of Indian writers have been pushing the boundaries and exploring queer themes in their work, trying to give them some space. Only recently, the portrayal of queer characters, their love and desire, and various numerous queer elements have started challenging traditional norms and offer new perspectives on the queer experiences and issues with a humanitarian artistic creativity. 5.4.2 History. Queer history in Indian literature is such an area that has often been overlooked and underrepresented. However, it needs critical discussion and literary representations so that some lights are shed on the diverse and complex experiences of India's LGBTQ community. From ancient texts to contemporary literature, queer characters and themes have been represented throughout Indian literature, but have often been erased or silenced from the literary narrative structures of historical portrayals. By exploring and critically analyzing these narratives, we can gain a deeper appreciation of their struggles and survivability of the LGBTQ individuals in India. It is also an opportunity to challenge cisgendered heteronormative and patriarchal structures that have historically marginalized the community. Ruth Vanita and Salim Kidwai's Same-Sex Love in India, Readings from Literature and History, 2000, delve into the rich and fascinating world of queer history in Indian literature and explore how it has evolved over time. 5.4.3 Visibility. As you all know by now that the LGBTQ community in India strives for recognition and acceptance. It is imperative that their voices are heard and represented in the literary art. Their real and true construction needs to be authenticated in Indian literature that has a long and rich cultural heritage. Still, the spaces for the community has been made invisible or ignored from all kinds of literary narratives. But in the 90s, the poetry of Vikram Seth or Hosang Merchant sowed the seeds of constructing the literary art. Recently, there has been a significant increase in the number of writers and poets who are boldly exploring queerness in their literary creations. These writers are breaking down the prejudiced barriers and challenging cisgendered heteronormative traditional notions of gender and sexuality. They are creating constructive voices for this invisibilized community and offering a new perspective on what it means to be queer in India. Raj Rao's The Boyfriend created a literary space in the mainstream Indian literature in English. Gradually, Parmesh Sahani, Sandeep Roy, Jerry Pinto, Devdutt Patnaik, Manish Gaikwad, Arun Michandani, Akhil Katyal, Mahesh Dattani, and many others delve deeper into the world of queer literature in India to portray the challenges faced by queer writers. In the contemporary times, the importance of queer visibility in literature has taken a different shape, with technological literary art also emerging, like blogs, graphic novels. Chic-lite, e-zines, are some of the most common genre of Indian literature, bringing queer visibility to the forefront. From poetry to novels, short stories to memoirs, Indian writers are exploring queer themes and characters like never before. 5.4.4 Activism. You are already familiar with the activism that queer community have been struggling for, building a space that could not only provide them visibility and recognition, but also address their issues in Block 3 of MWG 101. Despite Indian literature having a rich history of exploring themes of love, sexuality, and gender, queer activism is gaining momentum only in recent years. In fact, it has come a long way to get that space in literary art. As a medium of voicing their identities to be correctly represented, Indian literature became a powerful tool to bring a social change for the prejudices and biases that the LGBTQ community has been facing since ages. With the decriminalization of homosexuality in India in 2018, the community and their allies have been pushing for the greater representation and visibility, in a correct and exact way it should be, in various arts and media, including literature. Interestingly, once the queer subject was considered a taboo, and today it is becoming a significant part of Indian literary discourse. Queer activists through their writings have been exploring themes of identity, love, acceptance, and resistance, and portraying the complexities of queer experiences in India. The emergence of such literature in India has not only paved the way for more inclusive storytelling, but also played a critical role in raising awareness about LGBTQ issues and advocating for equality and rights. Thus, queer activism in Indian literature is a powerful tool for celebration of diversity and inclusivity. 5.4.5 Diversity. India literature reflects the rich cultural diversity of the country. While the Indian literary scene has traditionally been dominated by heteronormative narratives, queer voices have been silenced for a long time. There has been a recent surge of queer voices and diversity in Indian literary space. The literary community has been breaking this silence by exploring and representing the diverse experiences of LGBTQ people. These literary works are helping to challenge the stigma and discrimination that queer people face. From memoirs and essays to fiction and poetry to short stories and plays, these works offer a fresh perspective on what it means to be queer in India. However, the road to acceptance and representation is not without its challenges, with many queer writers and their literary works facing backlash and censorship. Despite these obstacles, the growing presence of queer literature in India is a testament to the power of storytelling and the importance of diverse representation in literature. Now, the literary world has become a safe haven for queer authors and readers alike. 5.5 Queer Writers of India. As you know by now that India has a rich literary tradition, with a long history of publishing some of the world's most celebrated writers. You are also aware that for many years the voices and stories of queer writers were silenced or ignored. Only in recent years, a new generation of queer writers has emerged in India in a burgeoning movement, bringing their unique perspectives and experiences to the forefront of the literary scene. These writers are breaking down barriers and challenging social norms, opening up new avenues for creative expression and representation. Queer writers of India are a not only vibrant, but also diverse community that is breaking new ground in the world of literature. The term untidy in diversity can be entitled to the queer writers. With their unique perspectives, they are shedding light on the experiences of LGBTQ people and beyond in India, and opening up new conversations about love, life and livelihood through the exact spectrum of gender and sexuality. From novels and short stories, to poetry and personal essays, from dramas and plays to autobiographies and graphic novels, these writers are using their craft to challenge stereotypes, celebrate diversity, and explore the complexities of identity and desire through their courage, creativity, and talent. The following are the major themes mainly focused on by the writers to depict the queer community. 5.5.1 Coming out and self-acceptance narratives. coming out is the most important phase in lives of queer people. The whole, psychological underpinnings of acceptance begin here. From the personal or individual to the family and social, identifying oneself with a particular sexual orientation and gender identity (SOGI) becomes very crucial in lives of queer people. According to Sedgwick, creating the protective sanctity within one's mind as a closet, and to come out of that closet is the epistemology of one's identity. Queer writers focus on the internal conflicts, fears, and anxieties faced by individuals, and the subsequent challenges they encounter in revealing their truth to family, friends, and society. For example, writers like Ainoshi Rani, Maya Patel, Mahesh Natarajan, Neil Mukherjee, Laxminarayan Tripathi, A. Revthi, Living Smile Vijay, Meenal, Hazratwala, Naomi Rahul Kanakia, Sunil Gupta, Shannon Phillips, Siddharth Jube, Ketoki Ronade, Parvati Sharma, Vivek Tejuja, and many others have been navigating societal expectations, familial pressures, and cultural norms. On this narrative theme, Indian queer writers shed light on the complexities and emotional struggles involved in accepting from self to society with their creativity. 5.5.2 Intersectionality. The queer community today has been fighting not only with the cisgender, heteronormative society, but also within their community to talk about their particular problem with the intersectionality of identities, including caste, religion, class, age, location, and gender, alongside their queer identity, the complications that these intersectionalities cause in lives of queer individuals are very diverse and unique in its own way. For instance, a Dalit, gay men will not have same kind of experiences with that of an upper caste individual, or a queer Muslim from West Bengal will undergo a different kind of experiences with a Tamil Hindu, or a queer individual from Manipur will have an unique experiences with that of Kashmir. They examine between multiple identities and how they influence experiences of queerness, and how these various aspects shape an individual's experiences and the challenges faced by queer individuals who belong to this marginalized communities. Hoshang Merchant, R. Raj Rao, Sandeep Roy, Akhil Katyal, Arundhati Roy, Aga Shahid Ali, Neelanjana, Vasudendra, Kunal Mukherjee, Vivek Shraya, Sukhdeep Singh, Arundhati Subramaniam, Ashutosh Pathak, Karnak Shashi, Kumar Davidson, Devdutt Patnaik, Shobna Kumar, Meena, Kandaswamy, Hansda Savendra Shekhar, Saikot Majumdar, and many others, examine the complex interplay between multiple identities and other social structures of existence. 5.5.3 Dynamics of family and society. Coming out and self-acceptance narratives intertwine with the dynamics of family and society. Quite often it is noticed that an individual prefers to come out only to a chosen friend circle or colleagues, while many just prefers to choose siblings or cousins to discuss their SOGI instead of parents, and many prominent LGBTQ individuals have preferred to discuss their SOGI with their parents. Indian queer writers explore the tension between cultural and familial expectations and their own queer identities for their gendered bodies and performativities. They delve into the struggles of navigating societal norms, traditions, and familial pressures while embracing their authentic selves. These writers tend to explore the conflicts, misunderstandings, and love that can arise when traditional values clash with queer identities. Some also explores chosen families and the support networks built by queer individuals, for example Vikram Seth, Vijay Tendulkar, Hoshang Merchant, Maya Patel, R. Raj Rao, Jerry Pinto, Manish Gikwad, Sachin Kandorkar, Obodaweza, Neil Patel, Galib Shiraz Dalla, Arun Michandani, Neil Patel, Rahul Mehta, Himadri Roy, Aruni Kashyap, Nikhil, Pandi, Nivedita Sen, Payaldha, Ashwini Sutanka, Monju Kapoor, Onir, and many others. 5.5.4 Love, Desires and Relationships. Queer writers keep challenging the cisgender heteronormative ideals and portray the complexities, joys, and vulnerabilities of queer love and relationships, including romantic and platonic connections. The diverse and nuanced portrayals of love, intimacy, the complexities and beauty of queer desire in various forms, and the complexities that arise within relationships, are being emphasized through their literary work. Suniti Namjoshi, Sharif, Ragnakar, R. Raj Rao, Sachin Kandorkar, Swapnamoy Chakrabarti, Shobha, De, Neil Mukherjee, Kara Chan Kunju, Danish Sheikh, Aditi Anjaris, Vijayra Jamalika, Neil Mukherjee, Jerry Pinto, Ghazal Dhaliwal, Mega Rao, Fozana Doctor, Anand Mahadevan. Himadri Roy, Manal Sui, Firdaus Kanga, Amruta Patil, Indra Das, Mandeep Reiki, Rohini Malur, Saikot Majumdar, Krupa Ge, and many others portrayed the queer love in their own way, encompassing the very essence of love and normativity, trying to make the queer community into the mainstream of literature. 5.5.5 History and Activism. The space that the queer writers have created needs to be credited to the social activism and historization of their existence, either through cataloging or through voicing their pains. The main motive of such literature produced, in plethora, is for social acceptance and recognition. The struggle for identity, dignity, and respect are focused with authenticity and exactitude. Writers, like Ruth Vanita, Salim Kidwai, Devdutt Patnaik, R. Raj Rao, Hose Hang, Merchant, Laxminarayan Tripathi, Ashok Rao Kawi, Apuvras Roni, Manobi, Bandyapad Haye, late Wendell Rodricks, Manavendia Singh Gohil, Shonali, Bose, Sonali Galotti, Saga Gupta, Vikas Gupta, Gautam Bahan, Alok Vade Menon, Bindu Madhav Kaya, Gopi Shankar Madurai, Mona Ahmed, Apsara, Reddy, Chayanika Shah, Raghavan Iyer, Ritu Dalmia, Maya Sharma, Shals, Mahajan, Parvez Sharma, Meenu Shruti, T.S. Das, Heidi Sadia, Kisho, Kumar, Avashi Vade, Roshan Susha Matthews, Kalki Subramaniam, Akai, Padamshali, Parmesh Shahani, Pawan Dole, Harish Iyer, and many others. According to Naisaji Dave, cataloging the queer history is important because it creates not only a genealogy, but also promises an emphatic prodige of creative literary media that can historicize the struggling battle of recognition, dignity, and respect. Queer writers from different fields, like screenwriting, lyricists, songwriting, fashion, cooking, journalism, etc., actively have done this and will continue to do this. 5.6 The Indian market and queer writers, writings and writers of literary media has created its own identity, but their creative works have to undergo a lot of ups and downs to fit into the reading community of the country. Although Vikram Seth's A Suitable Boy became the bestseller immediately after its launch in 1993, but that didn't gave space to other queer writers in India during the 90s of the last century. Except few unpopular publishing houses like Writers' Workshop published urban literature to give the space to such unique writings. This Kolkata-based literary publishing house published Hose Hang Merchants collection of poems before Seth's book came into the market. It kept publishing Merchants' poems for almost a decade till 1999. It took a decade to publish another novel with main protagonist from the queer community. R. Raj Rao's The Boyfriend got published in 2003. Both international publishing houses, HarperCollins and Penguin, took their time to enter in this domain of Indian literature. Early 2000s have seen an upsurge of queer writings in all forms, but neither the publishing house nor the reading market was ready to accept them as literature of creativity. Queer writers ran pillar to post for getting published and see the book in the Indian market. Many gave up their creative talent, while others kept waiting in the queue to make the manuscript a reality with a renowned publisher, whether Penguin, HarperCollins, Hachette, Westland, Random House, etc. A year or two was the common wait for many such writers, as everyone couldn't be as famous as Seth, Merchant, or Rao. But as queer writers came out with their literary works, the publishing industry couldn't popularize them as there was not a very promising market. The readership percentage of such writings was very low, incomparable to other best-selling authors. As there was not much profit for the publishing houses, the books on such writings gradually came and got lost on the huge catalogue of book titles. With time passing by and as their works contribute to challenging societal norms and stereotypes, only recently the market for Indian queer writers has expanded as more readers seek diverse voices and stories. Several publishing houses, both mainstream and independent, have actively sought out and published works by queer authors. This has provided a platform for these writers to share their narratives and reach a wider audience. The emergence of literary agents gave a different turn to queer writings and writers in India. Self-publishing or vanity publishing became the buzzword for the writers. Literary agents like Jacaranda, Shurna Kambata, Siyahi, Red Ink, Writer's Side, Shruti Debi, Lotus Lane, Labyrinth, Preeti, Gill, The Book Bakers, and Word Famous are some of them. These agents brought in the Western market strategies for literary authors. They prepared the manuscript for the publishing house, marketed and promoted the writings, for which they charged their fees. A commissioning agent, Sahil Chatterjee, believes that publishing houses will make concerted efforts to showcase more unusual and nuanced work as they expand their queer lists. He thinks that the space of young adult fiction is exploding with a diverse spectrum of queer stories, and the Indian market and the reading community in India is clued into what is being published internationally, especially with international publishing houses. The politics of manuscripts to books began, affordability and accessibility became the core words for queer writers. But that soon changed with technology, blogs, ebooks, audiobooks, podcasts. Chiclets took over the market. Self-publishing got a boom with these alternative books publishing industry. Soon queer writers took their initiatives and took technological benefits for their literary works. But publishing houses, such as Queer Inc., founded by Shobna Kumar, have dedicated themselves to promoting and amplifying the voices of Indian queer writers. Transdalit activist Grace Bonu has newly launched Queer Publishing House, QPH, to mainstream the queer voices in literary forms. Marketing and consultancy firms, specializing in book marketing and publicity, like Windward, are seeing queer writings as a niche literature for India and globally. Rochna Kulra, the founder of Windward, says, "For queer-themed books, my marketing would be aimed more at a more general reading audience and build awareness around the title, and not restricted to a very specific group of people." Such publishing house and consultancy give boost to queer writers to create as much as literary art as they can. https://article/9688284/what-queer-themes are-india's-writers-building-on-during-the-pandemic. The LGBTQ community looks forward to two important festivals of literary art. One conceptualized the idea in the two-tier city of Lucknow, while the other in the metropolitan capital, New Delhi. In February 2019, the LGBTQ activist from Lucknow, Darvesh Singh Yadavendra, had launched his dream, the Awad Queer Literature Festival. His intention was to ensure the voices of LGBTQIA youth from smaller towns and rural parts of Uttar Pradesh are heard. While Delhi gets hued with the Rainbow Literary Festival since December 2019. After launching the Rainbow Lit Fest, journalist and author Sharif Rangnikar is gearing up to inaugurate the Rainbow Awards for Literature and Journalism in New Delhi in 2023. Such literary festivals are much required all across the country to promote queer writings and the queer writers. 5.7 Summary. In this unit, you have learnt the characteristics of queer writings, the themes that queer writers mainly focus upon, and its significance in Indian literature. The focus on identification, representation, and visibility primarily prioritize the politics of recognition of such writings. Queer writings and writers try to utilize the neoliberal atmosphere of the reading community in the country, especially in the post-decriminalization. Such writings in their formal narrative patterns of textual structure do interpret the cultural production of any Indian society in their non-stigmatized literary art. The politics of writing across differences do tend to trace a particular narrative format of poetics. There is an explosion of acceptance of queer artistic aesthetics that these writings carry. The publishing houses and the market are gradually creating the space for identifying them with a specific genre, queer literature, but still these writings are at nascent stage and have to go miles before affirming it to the particular nomenclature. Thank you. Subscribe to our channel for more updates, and we will see you with the next chapter.